Welcome to Voice America, and this is Inez Simpson speaking. And I do have my co-host with me, Martin Gover. He's sort of here on the sidelines. He doesn't need to talk. It's okay.
Help me.
Anyway, I'm here today I'm in Australia. I was supposed to tell you that. And I'm in Australia, and I arrived here in Sydney, Australia yesterday. And I think they got their whole month's worth of rain in one day yesterday. And we were sitting on the runway for a while, but we made it here thanks to Lance.
Thank you.
That's my name's gone up in my mind.
My name's Lance Baker.
I forgot his last name. It's not terrible. Anyway, Lance Baker picked us up at the airport, had nearly a couple of accidents on the way and some flooding, and it was an exciting day, wasn't it?
It was pretty intense with all that rain. It was like I needed a boat getting to the airport.
So would you say this is still spring, or is it summer here?
Pretty sure it's meant to be summer now.
It's
summer.
Meant to be
This is
summer.
summer.
Yes.
Doesn't look like it out that window, but it is summer.
So that's okay, because that happens at home too. Wherever you are, sometimes you think you're in summer, but no, here comes the rain. All right. So for November, for us, of course, we're quite happy here. So that's great. It's wonderful here. I have to say that it's one of the prettiest places I've ever been. And all these animals that are marsupials and things, it's all exciting. So, but what we're going to talk about today, first of all, I was really going to ask Lance how he got into hypnosis and what he wants to say about hypnosis first. So go ahead.
Okay. I found hypnosis by accident. I kind of went in the back door. I'd started through energy healing. I was working with that and finding everybody was just dropping into trance when I was doing it. And turns out I was doing mesmerism a bit more often than I was doing Reiki, like I had been shown, following intuition processes.
Yeah.
And I'd found that from a chronic pain thing. I'd had a migraine for 9.5 years, 24/7, non-stop. So this weird and wonderful life of energy and hypnosis kind of took over pretty quick when I started doing that sort of thing, and it just disappeared. It got my attention big time. I had done a lot of NLP-based things years before without realizing. They were delivered to me as sales trainings.
Yes.
And with my knowledge now, I know they were NLP trainings. With the bend on just sales.
Yes. Remember, this show is Hypnosis Everywhere.
And it is everywhere. That's something I have noticed a lot now.
So I've been telling everybody in the world that's listening is that hypnosis is everywhere, and to become very aware so that you can decide when you want to be hypnotized or not.
Yes. Yeah. The big thing I found after working with Bob Swan is that subconscious is always listening.
It's always listening.
Always something going on.
And if you want to know more about Bob, you can go back. He's been on the show a couple of times. Just go back to Bob Burns, and he talks about the swan. And I have to say that, Bob and I are sort of on the same wavelengths, and I kind of actually use the swan also in construct with Simpson protocol. But you've done something different. You've written a little book about it.
Yeah, it's a very little book. It's more like a pamphlet. It's going to be on Amazon Kindle, hopefully by Christmas.
Yeah.
And I delivered that with Bob. I had him out just a few weeks ago in Newcastle to do a class. I did it with him. So we did a 3-day class, and I took over one of them where I delivered this part of it, where it's just questioning skills for the swan and idiomotor techniques. And a lot of that uses things I learned in the past with my sales, things I developed with my sales teams back in the day of how to get change for people, how to get somebody to take something on. You've got to have the change won't happen unless the value and the benefits outweigh that cost. And so for me, hypnosis is all about talking with that subconscious and building up that value and building up the connection of those benefits for that change and dropping the cost so that change just happens easy. And more and more that I work with that, the more and more easy that seems to just flow.
I know it's interesting, and it's just looking at it from a different perspective because every client and then every guest I've had on here tells everyone how they came to hypnosis and what their idea of hypnosis is.
Yes.
And it's always a slightly different, so that the listeners out there can notice that it's always slightly a little bit different, but it's all the same in the end.
It is very much so. I'm expecting high pressure on you here now that on the weekend when you're delivering the Simpson protocol and I get to pick up some little bits off that my perception will probably change a little bit again.
It does every time, every training you do, doesn't it? Something adds in, something always adds
something on and tweak what it is that I do.
And you know what we do is we take each other's stuff. I'll learn stuff from you. I'll learn stuff in the class.
Yeah.
Always do lots of learning when you're teaching, right?
Yeah, that's how it evolves.
So, and that's how everything evolves. And meanwhile, I'm very excited about where it's going, and especially with this thing with the SWA, Simpson protocol, and a few other protocols that are really going direct drive to the subconscious.
Yes. Yeah, my approach has always been direct to subconscious. I don't like to dance around it. If you can talk to that part, talk to it.
Yes. And I think it's just like, I remember when Bob was doing the one in Germany, the subconscious of this person got very excited that somebody was listening to them.
Yeah, I have that a lot.
It's very exciting.
When you've got somebody's yes finger just going nuts and the whole hand starts bouncing because it's like, it's on board and it's excited.
It's exciting.
You know there's going to be great change there. I look forward to seeing those people the next week.
The ultimate thing is that the client starts to trust they have this subconscious. They have this part of their mind that's phenomenally great at doing things. And their subconscious, they start to understand the limit of the subconscious. Yeah.
Yeah, they realize that it's all within them.
Yeah.
And they've got that power for that change. Yeah. And they've got, somebody's got their back and it's actually them. The person they've been putting rubbish on all these years is actually the one that's going to help them. And I find with my clients anyway, they seem to develop a lot of self-love afterwards.
Yes.
That their respect and trust in themselves really grows when they realize that that help is just there within them.
That's the same thing I say to the students. I said, once you're in total trust with that part of you, and your clients gets to be in trust with their part, then you have phenomenal work just happens quickly and easily. Yeah. So see, that way you have to learn to trust yourself. And you're going, how can I do that?
Yes.
So we can show you pretty easy.
Yes. Trust is one of those weird words till you start seeing a result. And most people with hypnosis, they start seeing that pretty darn quick.
Yeah, that's a big word. Because, you know, it's funny. I don't know if I've ever told you the story. I haven't told you the story. But I was one time considered an analytical person.
Yes.
You know, we'll get into brackets on that. But and I was working with this shaman, and I remember telling him afterwards, you know, these epiphanies you get when you're in hypnosis.
Yes.
And I said, you're the first person I ever trusted in my life.
Oh, wow.
And that was before I was 50. So not, you know, that was kind of a shock as it came out of my mouth.
Yeah. I can understand that.
And now I can understand that, but most people will have the same sort of effect. Once they start using hypnosis or some method of getting in touch with themselves, they start to develop trust in themselves, which allows them to trust others.
Yes. Yeah, I can say I was very analytical. I still am, but hypnosis shook my worldviews quite a lot of understanding how things click and work. And that understanding now just adds into that analytical in a different way. Now it's got to be flexible.
I mean, we all need that conscious part to be analytical when we're working, when we're doing things, but it can actually get in the way when we're wanting to do change, right?
Certainly does. Certainly does.
But when you start trusting your subconscious and you're talking directly to the subconscious, then things change because that part of you is a lot bigger than the small part of the conscious.
Yes. I do a lot of work with people on the autism spectrum. My son's on there, so I understand it quite deeply. And pretty much everybody on that spectrum is very analytical. So I've worked out different ways within hypnosis to keep it So it works for an analytical person using logic
Yes.
to really sell that change to the subconscious. Going, well, if A and B equals C, then we
Yeah.
need to make this change for our
Yeah.
person here. And it was like, oh, yeah, okay. So it's on board then.
So, we learn to adapt to our clients because we always say, and Beryl Kumar,
Yes.
she says, always the client is the script. People think of us as using scripts and words and all that, and it's true, we do, but we only use them particularly for that client in whatever way is suited to them.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I dropped scripts very early on, but I'm still scripted in that way that I'll drop back into those. I'll remember a paragraph or a phrase that I know will fit for this person and that will flow out. Yes.
And I think that's the art of hypnosis. We talk about the science of hypnosis, and we give people theories of how it works, the mind, etc. But when you're a hypnotist, it's really an art.
It is. And when you trust that, you get in that flow, and that's where I find if I don't know what I'm saying next, the best thing happens.
I know. And you say, where did that come from?
Yes. Yeah. Whether that's energetically connecting in with that person or your subconscious just uses its intelligence and creativity to find the best answer in that second for that person.
Well, we talk about everything. We talk about energy, and we talk about how, people say, well, I don't see electricity, but they believe in electricity, but they don't necessarily believe in energy as a healing mode or as in anything. So if they could just put themselves in that position of pretending it's electricity and then allowing themselves to at least be open to that possibility, then they'll see how all that can come together.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So in this last couple of minutes that we've got here on this segment, can you sort of put together exactly, so when you're working with clients, your favorite part, and you just sort of say how you, not exactly how you work because it's different, but any little thing you would add.
The favorite part of doing hypnosis?
Yes.
I like that moment where they realize they're not alone. So usually for me, the first session, I will use the swan. So they're awake and they're conscious.
Yeah.
And that you can't skeptic when your hand starts moving and waving to you and answering questions. But my favorite moment is that look on their face where their eyes go wide or they start giggling or they're just in shock because something magical has just happened. And they know from then on what they've walked in that door for is actually going to happen. They have hope, and you see that hope light up in their eyes. Occasionally, though, it does backfire and they get spooked because they didn't think anything was going to happen and now it's rocked their worldview and they need to think on this for a few nights.
But in the long run, I think it's very important because, in the Western world, especially, and other places too, is we've forgotten that, or we have stopped believing in that sense of magic. And the magic, what is magic anyway? Magic is really something we just didn't understand, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe on the next, when we come back, we can talk a little bit about that.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, we'll see you on the other side.
All clear.
Thanks.
Yep. Give me 1 second to save it, and then we'll get going again.
Yep. Welcome back to Hypnosis Everywhere, and I've got Lance Baker with me, and we're talking about magic. But first of all, we have been talking a little bit about Bob Burns' swan and how we use it differently. We actually use it slightly differently, but I'm going to get Lance to explain it to you in case you had never listened to Bob's show.
Well, Bob, he's a wonderful character from Scotland, and he'd come home from doing Tai Chi one morning and was sitting on the lounge with his arm up. And if you're watching online, you'll be able to see. But if you're just on the radio, it's like he's got his arm up, sitting up with the forearm up, but the hand is just floppy and limp. And he was just being silly and started talking to himself, and his hand flickered, which in hypnosis we call that an idiomotor response, where the subconscious interacts through the body. And he's like, I'm in hypnosis. I don't normally do idiomotor. This is interesting. If you can move that finger, could you move that hand? And his hand starts turning around towards him. And knowing Bob, I'm sure he was giggling his butt off, wondering what was going on. But he was blown away, and he found this new way to tap into the subconscious without any trance or hypnosis and get that feedback, which is what I was saying earlier about how it is always listening, and there is hypnosis everywhere. But you don't normally get that feedback from that different part. And this gets that. And then from there, he asks for a way to say yes and no. And everybody's got a different way of doing it. Sometimes it's a finger for some people. Sometimes their whole hand moves. Some people, their whole arm will move. And it's always interesting. And from there, he's had it where it does different things, where it actually talks with their voice or writes, or I've had it draw for me. It's interesting. Different
That's
things.
good. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to see that. I want to see that.
Well, we can do that through the week if you like and try it out.
We'll work that. Anyway, so what I was saying before the break is we stopped believing in magic. And magic had so much encompassing. It created beliefs in us. It created us to want to change, have this. If we believe this enough, it'll happen. And we've sort of taken that away in our Western culture, because now we call, we need to have science prove it. But we go back to the electricity that nobody knows is there, but we all believe it because it turns our lights on.
Yes.
So I would like you to let your lights get turned on by just imagining that magic is here. And magic is only something you don't understand at the moment. That's all.
Yeah, that's something we did understand.
Yes, at one time.
Magic is what became science.
Yeah.
Like magic come from the alchemists of the old, which is where hypnosis come from as well. But they were working with magic and chemicals and different things and trying to work out how to transmute lead into gold, and it just got adapted into chemistry and then medicine and science, and anything that was unexplainable that they couldn't physically see, they just wiped away. And now we're stuck in a world that's evidence based, which is far from it. Yes, and quantum is
luckily
is where magic's starting to make its resurfacing.
Its way back. Yeah. And people say, well, quantum is a lot of nonsense, and some people say, oh, it's the best ever. So it depends what side of you believing in magic is all about.
One way I like to explain it is, if you look at our skin cells under a microscope, or any part of our body for that matter, there's more space in between those cells than there is actual physical things in between it. And then inside that cell, there's more space in between that than the parts of that cell. And on a pro rata ratio, like the cells of our body are that far away from each other. It's like the distance from the Earth to the moon. Yeah. It's immense. And what's holding that together? Energy. And I think that's it. Everything is energy.
Everything is energy. And once you get into that concept, you can see that most anything will work if you are in the right state of mind. And I wonder where that comes from.
Yes.
Hypnosis does work for getting a great mindset, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, so mindset is really important. But even mostly when I say to my clients, I say, just be open to possibility.
Yes.
And that leaves you open to anything.
It does. It certainly does. If your thoughts are locked in a pattern, then that's the only outcome you're going to get. If you're open to possibilities, then your thoughts can change.
Yes.
Then your outcomes can change.
That's right. And, we have had a lot of changes with clients for everything. And, I really, I've been pushing, I have to say I've been pushing the audience to go and do self-hypnosis, do something to get on board.
Yes, self-hypnosis is amazing. I started with meditation and found it's pretty much self-hypnosis anyway.
It is. Yeah, it is.
I just started with mindfulness and just being in the moment. I'd start when I was in the shops, and if I was lined up at the supermarket, I'd use that time to just focus on what's going on there, the sounds of the supermarket, what's in the shop and trolley in front of me and whatever, and not think about what I had to cook when I went home, what I had to deal with when I went home, or what happened at work that day. And that helped me quiet my mind enough that I could realize I was actually in control of my mind. It was not in control of me.
So I want to take them to take note of that little exercise. It doesn't have to be necessarily in the supermarket, but just the fact is, just what doing that gives you knowledge that you have control over your mind.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And so, even doing those little things, start to maneuver yourself through the hypnotic world, which is the whole world pretty much, and just pay attention.
Yeah. The other thing you can do if you want to try a mantra-based thing, self-hypnosis really started back with a Milky Way, with the every day and every way I'm getting better and better. And it's a coverall thing.
Still one of the best things ever.
It is, yes. And you can adapt that to something that you want specifically in your life. But saying that a few times in the morning and a few times in the evening, the day gets better and it gets better. And you start being open to those possibilities and seeing those little wonderful, beautiful things in life.
And just a reminder to you, that the audience, that you do go into what we call the hypnagogic state when you come going into sleep and when you're coming out of sleep. So the ones at night, make sure there's a few more powerful ones there, and the ones in the morning are good. They work, but they're also a good reminder for you for the rest of the day.
They are, yes. When I first started doing that sort of thing, I would literally talk to myself. So I'd do it while I was brushing my hair in the morning or something. I'd look in the mirror and I'd have that eye contact with myself and say it, so I knew I was listening.
I know. I'll tell clients, look in the mirror and really talk to that person right there.
Yeah.
And then it becomes real.
It does. I thought it was a bunch of woo weirdo stuff when I first did it. And I was quickly surprised, and I had to eat my words very quickly.
And now you're one of those woo weirdos too.
Oh, now I'm the biggest woo weirdo in my town.
Oh, that's one. When you have 9 years of discomfort, like unbelievable discomfort, like having a migraine constantly like that, you would become a convert pretty quickly when it eased off.
Yeah, well, it's they were pretty hectic times. I had over that 9.5 years, the best I ever felt for like a second was a 3 out of 10 on the pain scale. I come up with at least a dozen new 10s. Yeah. Most of the time, it's either 5 or 6. So it was heavy. Yeah. And it was at the beginning of the 9th year. I said, I'm just going to try anything, no matter how weird it is. I'm going to try it. I'll just throw money at this. I can waste my time. I tried out Reiki. So I thought it was just energy healing. The woman was doing that. It was different stuff. And she didn't touch me. And I was laying there on her table, and I was imagining pulling money out of my wallet and setting it on fire. I thought, this hippie playing with the tarot cards in the corner. She's not doing anything. And I could always feel this thing that was in my head. And sometime through that session, it moved. I felt it move, and I was like, oh, she did something. So she had my attention
every penny, I would think, after that.
And then a few weeks later, I went to a Reiki 1 class and learned it myself. Weird hippie guy with a beard gave me a hug when I walked in the door. And I was like, oh, don't hug me, weirdo hippie. And then now
you're the weirdo hippie.
Now I love that guy, and I hug everybody. I'm the weird bearded hippie that hugs everybody that walks in the door to a meditation or whatever. And
I love those stories. I love that. It's great.
It was a week and a half after doing that sometime. I don't even know when. I just noticed it was gone. It wasn't there anymore. And it hasn't been. I
think that when people realize that most hypnotists have been where they were and they had huge change in their life, and they decided to become hypnotists for a reason. For me, it was really not that. It was profound because I hypnotized my first person at 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then I started doing life, and I never forgot all about it, till later, And later, when I had supposedly chronic pain, and then when I was learning my class of hypnosis, through that time, the discomfort all disappeared while I was doing self-hypnosis. Then I went back and worked on the rest of it. But just the phenomenal things that happen to all of us. And every one of us goes through life, and we all have issues that pop up of physical, mental, emotional, or even spiritual. And, you can address those through your mind. Yes. And if you need help, you can come and see us. Otherwise, you can do self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
1 minute left, so I'd like you to tie all that up for me.
The first time I did self-hypnosis was by accident. I didn't realize that when you drop into theta state, your subconscious just makes shifts happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in a float tank where you drop into theta.
Yes, that definitely works.
After I'd had a big party and I had a hell of a hangover. And after that, I didn't drink again for years. I had 2 nights later was my wife at the time's birthday, and we planned on having a big drink. And I got to a spa and I cracked open a beverage and went to drink, and I had a sip. And I'm like, I don't want this. And I had tried 4 times to have a sip from that thing, and I sat it down, and that was it. It was the last time I picked up a drink for at least a year or 2.
Yeah, and now you just, have moderate sort of now and then, right?
When I like, I have some. But I didn't make that choice. I wanted to drink that night, but my subconscious knew what was better for me, and it just did it. That was great.
Well, thanks. So now we're just going to go to a break again, and I'll see them on the other side, and we'll have to give them entertainment.
Yes.
Pardon?
Ready to go if you are.
Yes, okay.
Here we go. Our third segment here, 12 minutes. We will begin recording now in 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Hypnosis Everywhere, and we're still just chatting here up a storm with Lance Baker, and we're just and in Sydney, Australia. Yes, as you can tell by his accent and my Canadian accent beside him. So, luckily, think of how all this great we can talk. It's all English. It's all good. So, Lance, I'm just. I just thought I was going to talk about a little bit about, we were talking about before, you and I, that I had a brain chart taken when I was working with a psychologist doing brain state technologies. And that discomfort, I said, that had all disappeared. And I had chronic pain since I was 14 and had all disappeared when I did that self-hypnosis when I was taking my hypnosis class. But when I did the work, it was still showing in my brain. So it was interesting because the psychologist told me that I was in denial. And I said, well, hallelujah. Would you rather I had the pain? So you had a similar experience. So I thought we'd talk about that and sort of explain it and embellish it a bit.
Yeah. Well, where my pain come from is I have an arachnoid cyst that was 8 by 8 by 6 centimeters. So for those on Imperial, I'm not sure what that is. It's about the size of my fist. It's pretty huge right here. And I'd had that operated on. And why I knew exactly how long it was I had it operated on the day after my birthday. So it was a very memorable day. And they got rid of it. And a month later, I had a scan and it was back. Exactly the same. Straight away. Same thing was there.
Wow.
And then when that pain went away, I think it was about 2 years before I had another brain scan. I have to get one every few years just to check I'm not going to drop dead tomorrow or something like that. And I thought before I went in, I was like, this is going to be gone because I felt amazing for the last couple of years. So this has been fixed. So I laid there in the MRI machine. Just another one. Finally I get out and they give me the scans and I have a look and it's there. Exactly the same as it was before. No change. So I've still got this huge thing in my head, but I'm not having the side effects of it now. I'm not getting the constant pain. I'm not getting that vertigo that I used to get from it. My consciousness has just taken out the negatives and left it there because I guess it doesn't know how to get rid of the physicality of it.
Well, maybe right now anyway.
Yeah.
Open the possibility.
It has been years again since I've had a scan, so it could be gone.
Yeah, it could. Interesting. But, ultimately, when you think about that, is that we're always saying, well, that, you're in denial, as they say, but the subconscious has decided, like, pain is always a signal, right?
So
you know about it, Why?
Yeah.
And the subconscious said, well, he's had it operated on. He's had whatever. It doesn't need it.
Didn't
It
need that
doesn't
reminder
need the
anymore.
pain anymore. It
That was
doesn't need it.
a dead message.
So the subconscious will cut out discomfort when it doesn't have to be a real signal anymore.
No, it's like mutton coming up to you every 5 minutes going, you're a human, Inez. You're a human, Inez. You know you're a human. Just get over it.
I'm not always sure, actually.
Oh, sure. Oh, well.
Yeah. So the subconscious is running a pattern all the time, right? We were talking about that.
Yes. Yeah, it's trying to deliver messages and get that signal with the pain. It's trying to say there's something you need to do about this. And it doesn't always know that you've done all you can do about that and that there's no other option. I deal a lot with anxieties. Most of my clients come with some sort of anxiety. And I treat that like there's some part inside that's like an overprotective mum. That she's just tapping him on the shoulder. Have you got your jacket? Have you got your jacket? Have you got your jacket? Yes, Mum. I'm going to take my bloody jacket. Leave it alone. 2 minutes later, don't forget to take your jacket. So you just tell that part, look, they've got the message. If they let you know they've got the message, will you stop saying it?
Yeah.
And
It
guess what?
stops.
It stops.
Yeah.
It knows they've got that message and it changes it.
Very similar with people with fibromyalgia. You know what? There's all symptoms, right?
Yeah.
They're all symptoms. So if I had been supposedly diagnosed with fibromyalgia at one time from 14 to 40 or 50 in there somewhere. But, and of course the discomfort all went away, but it shows in the brain. And we talked about this. And the whole ultimate thing is the subconscious says, oh, she got the message. The message for you fibromyalgia people out there is that you're doing too much and your body's saying, enough already, enough. And it'll give you pain. So slow down, stop doing it. Stop doing anything for everybody. All those things are being said to you. Once you get the message, guess what? You don't need the pain.
Yeah, I've had a lot of chronic pain clients I've done hypnosis work with and get that signal to go away, changes into something else, maybe a taste in their mouth, a tingle in their arm, a nice warm buzz or something like that. And so it's got that reminder. Some will listen and they'll change their behavior when they get that tingle, the buzz, the taste, whatever it is, and they'll pause and they'll stop mowing their lawn, they'll stop lifting the heavy things and they'll go rest. Then there's those others that go, I like this taste. I like this tingle. I can finish this job.
Yeah.
And then what does the subconscious do? It goes, well, this doesn't work. I'm going to go back with pain because you get that message. You have to listen. So the signal still has to be listened to if it's something that they can do something about. But that old pain of something that is just useless anymore, they can't do anything about, they've ticked all their boxes, that usually you can make go away.
And the subconscious prime directive is our survival.
Yes.
So if it's going to give you pain for you to survive, that's what it'll do.
It will. Yeah. Every problem I've faced with the subconscious in hypnosis, when I've got down to it with the questionings I've had with it, it's had a purpose.
Yeah.
And its purpose has been for the higher good of my client. It's usually been wrong. And been doing something that's causing another drama that's bigger than the original one. But once it realizes that, it'll shift and it'll change because it cares about our client.
Yeah. So think about it, you guys. Just everything in your mind is set up to save your life and survive. But sometimes, it could use a little bit of a nudge to help it understand and get moving. Yeah, I have to give you this example before of the kids that, they have a test at school and they didn't study. So they, Mom, I'm really sick today. Can I stay home? I mean, how many of us have done that?
Oh, everyone.
So we do it a few times and the mind says, hey, subconscious, is that working? I'll remember that. And it works for them. So then suddenly they grow up and they're at work on their computer and they really don't want to be there. It's just not there. As soon as they have that thought, I don't want to be here because I'm not ready or whatever. So I know what works for that. Here comes the pain.
Yes.
Here comes the pain and your headache or whatever, but we keep going. So we're actually fighting ourselves constantly with this stuff when it happens.
Yeah.
So that's when the reprogramming is needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reprogram or deprogram.
Or deprogramming.
Dehypnotizing is quite often what it is.
That's right. And then usually you dehypnotize and then you reprogram after.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of it's that self-talk cycle.
Yeah.
We're our own worst enemy. The worst thing you'll ever hear in your life, Inez, who's going to tell you? You.
Me.
And if somebody, for some reason, happens to come up with something worse and says it to you, they'll have that record for about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
And then your subconscious will add to it, and your conscious mind will add to it, and you'll tell yourself worse things. And that is where we get off in life, where we're taught to put ourselves down and not lift ourselves up. Tall poppy syndrome. We're just going to be called egotistical and cut ourselves down.
Yeah.
We all need to start talking better to ourselves.
Yes. And it's just the way, I was teaching a class last week and I said, that's because we are always told not to be vain. We're not to think of ourselves. You all should think about others. The trouble is, the old thing about giving oxygen in an airplane to yourself before you can give it to someone else.
Yes.
Well, that plays out. We're told not to do that.
Yes.
Constantly. And we actually need to do it the other way around. And then you can start sharing yourself because there's enough of you to share.
We do, yes. Yeah. I tell people to think about, well, would you tell your sister that? Would you tell your mum that? No way. Then why are you telling yourself that? Would they tell you that? No, they wouldn't. Then if you're the only one doing it, how about we stop it?
That, what's his name, Martin? The guy, Stop It.
Bob
Newhart.
Stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it.
So we sort of do that in hypnosis. Maybe we go a little roundabout it, but in the end, that's what we're telling them is stop doing that.
Yeah, just stop
it. It's always fun. But hypnosis has, for me, been the best gift that I ever got in my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just love that I get to give that to people every day now and see people's lives change.
For us, yeah.
So I had somebody a few weeks ago tell me like their sister had seen me like, I don't know what you did, but she's the happiest I've ever seen her.
Yeah.
And we get along so much better now.
Yeah.
And it was just from adding little bits in of her loving herself more, seeing the beauty in life every day. And that's the thing I get told all the time. You just see people smiling more the next time you see them. And
people change quickly.
Yeah. And that's because inside their dialogue is changing.
Yes.
And they're starting to realize, talk to themselves better, and they deserve way more than they've ever given themselves credit for.
And that's always part of the thing is, as a hypnotist, is we teach you that you deserve the full meal deal.
Mm.
As we say.
the word deserve in self-talk has usually been used negatively.
Yes.
You deserve to take this punishment. You deserve this self-loathing, whatever it is. So I like to reframe that deserve into the positives.
That's a good ending for this spot.
Yeah.
And we're just going to go and see you on the other side.
Let's do this. Our last and final segment here, 9 minutes. We will begin recording now in 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to Hypnosis Everywhere, and Lance Baker's with me, and we're having a fun time. So I'm just going to ask him to sort of, this last segment is really pull it all together for you, because, all this stuff you could already be doing a lot of it on your own.
Yes. Yeah. Where your intention goes is where your life goes. If you believe and you want that change, you can start to make it happen just by how you talk to yourself, whether that's with hypnosis, self-hypnosis, mindfulness, just your general conversations with yourself and with the people who surround you. The conversation you have over breakfast with your partner or your parents or your kids, that sets the tone for your day.
It does.
I have a friend who constantly reminds me a bad moment doesn't have to mean a bad day.
That's right.
And I used to fall into that trap so much, stuck in traffic in the morning. My day would be rubbish because it'd be like, oh, everything's crap. Everything's going to
Your
hell.
focus gone totally to that.
Yes. And now that I work with energy a lot more, my intention is more empowered, I find. And if I start on the wrong side of the bed, my day will snowball into terrible things very, very quickly because my subconscious listens to me so much more. And it's backed by all that energy that it just does. I can get into a terrible space if I start that negative self-talk. But I can snap out of it that quick now. If I realize and I spot that, I can change the way I talk and I can get out of that
Awareness
mindset,
is everything.
my day just can go amazing and I can turn it around.
And I think the importance is that you start to take some responsibility for your self-talk. Here I go, my usual rant about responsibility. But you're the one talking to yourself. You're the one notice it when you're saying negative things to yourself. And you start saying stop and just reframe those. Say it differently. And your mind will say, oh, okay, I like that better.
That's it. Your boss.
Yeah. And you just have to start doing that. Even though the 9% or 10% or whatever percent your conscious is supposedly not in charge because the subconscious is really much more powerful. Is it still the one that is listened to because the subconscious will always do what you want. And if it's negative, you'll get it for sure.
I learned a thing a few years ago that really helps me when I'm doing something and I realize where it's leading, that everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. And everything you say no to, you're saying yes to something else because every decision has an opposite. And that's where that self-talk and the actions based off that self-talk, where it leads, you've got to go, well, what is the opposite of this? So sometimes you've got to ask yourself, well, if life was perfect, what would I do? And then just go for it.
Yeah.
And just do it.
I think that's the whole thing. I mean, life can't be perfect. We all have stuff happen in our lives. But when you learn and you become in awareness, you can also, no matter what it is, you may be down for a moment or two or even a little longer, depending on what life hits you with. But as soon as you start to move forward in the more positive part of that and look at the other side.
Yes. The more I've understood this, the better my life has got. And it has been a snowball effect. Like people talk about how much depression and PTSD can snowball into destroying somebody's life. This stuff does just the opposite.
You know what? You can have the whole opposite here.
Yeah.
That works great. And I really want people to know that because, they don't think about that.
Yeah.
And
I don't think there's an area in this world now where you couldn't find somebody who does meditation or hypnosis or something that can give you a hand. And if you can't, there's online and there's your self-hypnosis thing. There's
all kinds.
Bob Burns' Swan we were talking about before. There's a YouTube clip that shows you in 10 minutes how to do it yourself. That's how I first learned it. There's lots of different things out there that you can find. There's 1,000,001 YouTube meditations and self-hypnosis tracks out there. Some of them are terrible, some of them are amazing.
Yes, and that's the whole thing. Just take responsibility for yourself and look out there and learn how you need to speak to yourself. And there's all kinds of information available. And I got that self-hypnosis site and there's all this free information everywhere. That doesn't mean you don't come to see us when you really need us, but you get on the right.
So yes, we are hypnotists, usually the last.
Yeah, we are usually the last frontier.
Yes, people use hypnosis as the last resort, but what I've found is after that, their family, their friends, it's no longer a last resort because they've seen the magic. They've seen how powerful it is.
And every now and then you'll have a client who doesn't notice their change because suddenly they become the change right away.
Yes.
Right? But they're like your sister. Their sister said, oh my God, that's wonderful. They're so much happier. The families will notice a huge change in them.
They do. They can't deny it. They can't deny something magical just happened.
But you become changed and you don't notice anymore because you just become the new you.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's continuing all the time.
There's no aha moment for a lot of people because it's new reality.
Yeah, new reality.
Yeah.
And they may notice because some life is going differently all of a sudden.
Yes.
So that's good. So anything else that you can give them? I think we've given them all kinds of
I think we've
tidbits
given
here.
them a lot here today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've given them
If they want
lots.
more, they can always look me up. Lance Baker's my name. Branches and Healing is my business. I do sessions here in Australia, and I do Skype anywhere around the world, like you do yourself.
Yeah, we're becoming very global, aren't we?
We are. We've got reach to
yeah.
anybody and everybody these
It's an
days.
interesting life.
If you're listening to this, you can contact us.
Yeah, or anyone else. Do you know, if you listen to the radio show and you go back to all the different hypnotists that have been on, we all come at hypnosis from a slightly different place.
We do.
But ultimately, it's all the same.
It is. Yes.
Ultimately. But there'll be maybe one hypnotist suited to you better than another hypnotist, and that's just the way it is. It's about the rapport you have, maybe the belief systems you have, and Lance and I might not be the best ones for you. You never know.
Exactly.
But we might. So just go out there, and whenever you see a hypnotist, take some workshops. There's all kinds of stuff out there. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I teach self-hypnosis workshops. I'm sure there's hypnotists everywhere teach all kinds of stuff. So become aware and start to move forward. What's happening, Martin? Do you know next week? He says it's not. We're traveling right now, so it might be a repeat. So it might be a whole surprise for you. So next week, we'll see what the juicy tidbit is. Right now we're, Dan Cleary. He's a great guy. He was another guy that was in a lot of pain all the time. It still is today.
I actually listened to that while I was driving my car boat to the airport to pick you up.
And he's a phenomenal guy. And he is so interesting. He does it all with language.
Yes.
And he just talks to people and he shifts them. I've seen him do it. It's a very unique perspective on hypnosis with Dan.
Yes. Well, it is just language. And that part's always listening. And if it's compelled by what you say, it'll act on it.
And it's a very phenomenal guy. And we love you, Dan, by the way. So, I think I'm maybe the luckiest person in the world. I get to meet all these Lance Bakers, Dan Clearys, all these other people in my life. And I teach lots of people, and it's so much fun. And hypnosis is all the background. So in the last minute we have left, do you want to say any last thing before we sign off?
I'm not sure. I'm excited to see where things go, of what I learned from you. You mentioned Beryl earlier. I'm bringing her out here, just like I've brought you to Sydney this week. I've got her in March. So I'm excited for that. I seen her this time last year in Melbourne. And she's amazing with some of her skills.
She's very phenomenal. She's a very caring human being. And I think that's ultimately the best we can say about hypnotists. We're all a bunch of caring human beings. And guess what? It's time to go. And we'll see you next time.